Okay, you're live.
Thanks, Toby. I'd like to call the May monthly meeting of the Burlington Area School District's Board to order. And first, let's read the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone could rise and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Toby, would you do the roll call, please?
Yes. Peter Turk.
Here.
Barry Schmaling.
Here.
Marlo Braun.
Here.
Taylor Wishaw.
I am here.
Roseanne Hahn.
Here.
Kevin Bird. Susan Kessler.
Here.
Thank you.
Next, we need to approve minutes of past school board meetings. We have two meetings, one from April 12th and one from April 26th. And I ask for a motion to approve both minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, motions have been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Toby, would you do the roll call, please?
Peter.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Marlo.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Roseanne.
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Toby. Moving on to communications. Since our last meeting, we've had 28 public comments. And I can summarize them by topic and give you, there were 10 comments of the 28 that requested that masks become optional. 4 comments related to asking that masks be included as an agenda item. 5 comments relating to a potential partnership with BCDR. 2 comments were relating to in-person meetings. 2 comments relating to the DPI ruling and curriculum. 4 comments on Burlington Area School District's notice of meeting and public comments procedure. And 1 comment congratulating new board officers. For everyone who's live streaming tonight, you can read all the public comments in their full detail on the school district website. If you go to the board agenda, all 28 comments are there. And I will note there were public comments that were received today, but those aren't included in the 28. And they'll be noted for our next monthly meeting. So thank you for everyone for your public comments. And as I can tell you this too, I read every public comment and all the attachments that are included. And I'm confident all our board members do also.
Yes, we do.
Thank you, Roseanne. Next, correspondence and board communication. And before I ask anyone else, because I'd like to start, I kick it off and I'll ask other board members if they have it. But I want to note this is our first board meeting with new officers. And I wanted to thank the outgoing officers. So Roseanne, Kevin, and Susan for all your time and hard work. And Susan, I know you've been clerk for the school board for 10 years. It's a long time to serve on the board and also to take an officer role. And Roseanne, I've only been the board president for 2 weeks, but I can tell you it's a lot of work already. So thank you for your hard work and dedication. And I know you're going to take your leadership skills to WASB over the next 3 years in your position on the board there or becoming president of WASBA in the future.
Thank you.
Do any other board members have comments at this time?
I do, Roseanne. I attended the webinar from our lawyers. Alana was one of the presenters, and it was called "What You Need to Know About Going into the 21-22 School Year." It was very enlightening and interesting. They talked about the fact that we had better, as we start the school year, document. When things happen that are not quite what they should be in our classrooms, make sure that that is documented. They talked about t-shirts even being, we have to watch out that they're not a bullying t-shirt. Talked about each board should annually evaluate the status of everything of discrimination within the district. They talked a lot about seclusion and restraint, especially in handling Title IX students. And then they talked about masks. They said that there's a lot of public pressure now not to wear masks, but we should listen to what the local health people do, and especially look at the recommendations of our own school nurse, because she really understands what's going on in our building. And if any of you would want to see it, I think that's available to all of you. It's only an hour, but it's very interesting. And I think you have it on your, you can tune in on it because they opened it up to all board members. But I just like to say I enjoyed it a lot. I learned a lot. So thank you.
Thanks, Roseanne. Anyone else have comments?
Yeah,
Taylor, yeah.
I'll go next. I just want to recognize that this is National Police Week and Police Officers Memorial Day on the 15th. Of course, this was started by John F. Kennedy in 1962. And I just wanted to extend a special thanks to our community partners, Burlington Police Department, Racine County Sheriff, and Walworth County Sheriff, since part of our district does dip into Walworth County. So I just want to acknowledge and thank them for all the hard work that they do as community partners. Next, I wanted to recognize 6 seniors, since they unfortunately won't be at the banquet ceremony this week, that are pursuing the military after graduation. Keeping in line with a 3-year tradition that I just started 3 years ago, where I have a U.S. flag flown over the state capitol in honor of their service. It's my way to say thank you. I'll just read just their first name. Chloe, going to the U.S. Army. Tyler, U.S. Navy. Cody, U.S. Army. Ivan, U.S. Army. Aaron, U.S. Marines. And Charles, U.S. Army. So I just wanted to give those students a special thank you and shout out, since I won't be at the event later this week. Next, there's a Facebook page called Growing Up in Burlington. There's a lot of cool photos that are being posted from people that have walked through Karcher during the past options that we had for the community to go out there and just see the school. I did pose a question because based off of a lot of the comments that I was reading, there it seemed like there's a lot of people out there that still did not have an opportunity just due to the limited, I guess, time slots that we had available for that. I did a poll on that page, and as of 10 minutes before this meeting started, we had over 260 people that voted yes to see if they would, if the district would go and add an additional day or two potentially for the community to potentially walk through one last time. So I don't know if that's potentially an option. I know given the short window that we have, but it seems like there is a very strong desire for the community to try to get back in the school, because it either didn't work out for them time-wise or whatever reason. But again, 260 voted yes, 41 voted no. But what was interesting, some of the people that voted no expressed in the comments that they wanted an additional day or time slot added. So I'm not sure why they voted no, but they still expressed a desire for that to be added. So if we could potentially look at that, that would be awesome. And then just a lot of, like, within the last 20 minutes, I've received probably over 10 texts or messages regarding, I guess, a survey that went out to students today. It seems like there's a lot of parents that are concerned about that. So I guess I just wanted to bring that up as well. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, Taylor, thanks for all your comments. Anyone else have comments? Barry.
Got to get the right screen to unmute. Sorry about that. So I had a couple of things that I wanted to go over. First was the Karcher walkthroughs. I attended both sessions and got to walk around and listen to some people, and there were a lot of really fantastic interactions, but 2 of them really stuck out to me that I wanted to mention. One was a little boy, couldn't have been 2, barely had his legs under him, just kind of staggering down the hall, and his father was taking a picture with some other people on the wall, and he came around the corner and saw me, and he looked up at me, and I looked down at him, and he's got his mask on, I've got my mask on, and I smiled at him, and you could just see his eyes light up, and he was so happy, and we kind of did a jig around each other and went and made a noise. But it just kind of reminded me that, you know, these schools are populated with our children. and how important the district is to so many families and the kids. The other one that I thought was a little more touching is I was up on the 3rd floor, just shy of the pool, and there was someone standing kind of in the middle of the hallway, and he kept jostling for position in the hallway, and there was this woman standing next to him, and he kept adjusting her, and then he finally threw himself up against the wall. He said, "Right there. I came out of this bathroom door, and that's where I met you." And it was his wife.
Nice.
So it was kind of neat to see them relive that memory again from so many years ago in the school. So that was the one item. The second item is I would really plead with the community as a whole to remember that there are people, humans on the other sides of these emails that you're sending in. Our staff, fellow board members should not be subjected to personal abuse. We all have opinions. We can all share those opinions and we can all work together to come to a conclusion. We aren't all going to get what we want, but let's try and dial down this tone a little bit and be a little more civil. And that's everything I've got. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry. Anyone else have comments?
I do, Peter.
Good.
And Barry, that's the perfect segue for what I wanted to say. I just wanted to read, we had our special board meeting on Friday, and vote was a split vote, you know, for in-person or for virtual versus in-person. And I respect the process. Again, I would prefer us to be in person with public, but as it is, we are not. So with that, I would like to read one of the emails that came through today. Personally, I read them all as well. And I am committed to reading at least one email per meeting until we get back to in-person with public. But I will not read any emails that are making personal attacks at board members, name calling. That's not how I operate in my day-to-day life. And I think we can be civil and yet still have differences of opinions. So this particular email, I will give you the name of the person afterwards, of course. The public's voice. The 3 minutes when the public can face the board and talk opposition or approval on a topic are very valuable. BASD received PPE money, lots of it. If some board members are afraid, there are several options. Buy them face shields, suits, and or masks for the meetings. Members may attend the meeting virtually, call in by phone to attend the meeting, or call in by phone to attend the meeting. With your reverse decision to hold meetings virtually, you are taking away the public's voice at your meetings. Afraid members can go virtual. The public wants to participate for expressing their opinion. The method that was started by the past president was to state tally marks, reporting of the public's comments on email sent to the special address of board comments. This is not acceptable. The viewing person hears no oppositional opinions while watching a meeting. We have no notice that you ever read them. Only Mr. Schmaling comments that he does read them, while Mr. Bird states that he hates emails. Talking directly to the board ensures that they have listened to the public's opinion. In all red caps or red lettering, restore the public's voice within the board meetings. Bonnie Ketterhagen, Burlington, Wisconsin. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Carlo, I appreciate reading that, but you said you would not read any emails that attacked any board members, and that one did. So I'd appreciate you really kind of watching which ones that you do go ahead and read out loud. Thank you.
How was that attacking?
There mention of several board members in there that was not very nice. So, and so many of these emails that we get I just view as bullying emails. And I really, I think all of us have an open mind and we'll all listen, but Any emails that are bullying to any of us are really, really not appreciated.
And I totally agree with you, which is why I did not read any of the ones that called anybody cowards or fearful or whatever. You know what I mean? So I understand.
Okay, thanks, Susan, for your input too. And anyone else? I think that we may have gone around the horn. Let's move on to our next agenda item, then the business office bank statements and bills. I apologize. Superintendent's report. I almost skipped over you, Steve. Apologize.
No worries. I did want to highlight two just celebrations. One's kind of been talked about a little bit already, but specifically the Karcher open houses. These were designed to welcome in anybody who is interested in seeing the school before demolition begins. We did have a Saturday that was scheduled mid-morning. It was a 10 to noon, followed by a week later, a Friday evening that was from 5 to 7. I did that really purposefully to try to allow some space to have the building breathe after people came through. And while it's tough to get a number, we're estimating that we probably saw somewhere in excess of 700 people come through on those 2 nights. It was very well attended. There is also perhaps this is to Mr. Wishaw's comments, some appreciation to a video that is being put together that can live in perpetuity, that will be sort of a video walkthrough for anybody that potentially wasn't able to be there, or for some 30 to 50 to 100 years from now when people might want to see what that school once looked like. So in addition, did want to just take a moment to thank our communications coordinator, Julie Thomas. She was the person that did 95% of the lifting to make that event happen. And I think it is worth recognizing her for that as well. The other celebration happened on Saturday night, and that is we were able to have our students enjoy a junior senior prom. It's not the prom that most people remember having, and it may have been great for some. It may have been a little frustrating for others, don't know. But I can tell you that if you were able to see any of the pictures or talk to any of the kids, it certainly sounds like it was really quite a successful evening. And so I just want to recognize all of the staff from BHS that went into making that happen for our students. The third thing is kind of really just a little bit of an update for the board. I know that you continue, and even later on the agenda tonight, have an item for policy approvals and updates. And just want to mention that after you adopted the policy manual back in November, that in December, the administration's attention turned to the administrative guidelines work. And for the last 5.5 months, I have been working through approximately 540 administrative guidelines that align to the policies that you worked and drafted and ultimately approved on November 30th. I just last week received from Neola sort of what is the final copy of our drafted guidelines for review. And so about 6 months worth of effort. And the good news is that guidelines really are just how we execute the day-to-day of the policies that you've adopted. And so again, big thanks to our entire administrative team who spent hours upon hours. We were doing four-hour chunks almost weekly during that entire time to work through those administrative guidelines. And so they're just under review at this point in time. And then once administrative guidelines are complete, they will continue to be tweaked as policies are tweaked and as changes get made in practice in the field, in the schools. And it will allow us to move on to student handbooks next for review. So just wanted to provide you with that update. Speaking of then other events and things that are going on, we do on Wednesday night, again, I think as Mr. Wishaw pointed out in his comments, that is the Senior Academic Honors and Scholarship Evening that is being held at Burlington High School in the gym. So very much looking forward to that. And then next week, there are 3 pretty significant events. One is Tuesday night's retirement celebration. At last count, we were honoring 11 retirees. That's going to happen at Vets Terrace. and will be done as sort of just an open house style so that it doesn't limit access to folks throughout the time period. So from 4:30 to 6:30, if any of you are interested in attending that, I'm sure your presence would be appreciated. And then on Thursday evening at 7 p.m. is 8th grade recognition, and that's a shift from prior years when it was during the day. It's at 7 p.m. and that will be also in the main gym / field house at Burlington High School. And then lastly, on Friday, the very next day, on the 21st, is the Burlington High School graduation. And this is where, you know, any pull that any of you have with Mother Nature, we'd love to have great weather so we can be outside at Don Dalton Stadium to allow for increased capacity and not have to move inside. That would be great. The other thing is that has been changed to a 6 p.m. ceremony. That's been communicated certainly to all families, but that's to try to leverage as much daylight as we can and maybe even minimize mosquitoes coming out. So let's hope for good weather for the 21st for our final graduation of the school year here. So that's all I had, Mr. Turk. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve. And I want to recognize too I'll get you a second, Roseanne, just the hard work that you've done with the admin team with the administrative guidelines, plus our policy committee. You know, that was 6 months of policy. So it's been a year of doing policy and administrative guidelines, and now it's on to the handbook, which I know is more work, but when we're done with this whole process, we're going to be in really good shape. Roseanne, go ahead. You had something.
I just had a question on the graduation. I think we all need to know. So I know you, Peter, you're going to be there. So the rest of us are really not going to be marching in or anything like that. Is that correct?
That is correct. It will be still a little bit of a holdover kind of from how things happened last year, where there's just the less people that we have there on stage and right in it, probably the better, just in terms of trying to keep everybody safe.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Like to move on to the business office items. So Taylor, would you take us through the bank statement and the bills?
Sure. The April 2021 bank statement and reconciliation report. Total beginning cash on hand is $678,933.90. Total revenues and deposits equals $3,750,996.82. Leaves a total available cash on hand of $4,429,930.72. For expenditures and withdrawals, total withdrawals are $3,988,223.17, with a total of ending cash on hand of $441,707.55. And of course, that balances. So I put that in the form of motion that we accept the bank statement reconciliation report for April.
Second.
I second that.
Okay, a motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'd like to call for a roll call vote. Toby?
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Marlo,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Next, let's see. Total expenses for the check register was $1,770,568.84. And I make a motion that we approve the bills for the month of April.
Second it.
Okay, a motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, let's call a roll call vote to approve the bills.
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Marlo,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Roseanne, and Susan.
Yes.
Thanks, Toby. Earlier this evening, the Personnel Committee did not meet as scheduled. We did not have a quorum. However, we can still take action on some of the personnel items, although we will not have a recommendation from our Personnel Committee. So the first item on our agenda for under personnel are the resignations, retirements, and terminations. Steve, would you mind taking us through those?
Sure, thank you. So this is for certified staff. We have 3 folks in this category. One is Caitlin Klipstein from Dyer Intermediate, 6th grade. That's a resignation. Carl Richter from Burlington High School, counselor. That's a resignation. And Jacqueline Truen, ELL teacher in math intervention, and that is a resignation. In non-certified staff, in the same category, we had 5 individuals. First is Elena Emmerman, custodian. That was a termination. Sarah Henningsen from Waller as a resignation. Victoria Luke from Karcher Middle School, special ed aide, is a retirement. Patty Pepper from Winkler Elementary, special ed aide. That is a retirement for Patty. And Jessica Wade, BASD sign language interpreter, that is a resignation. So there are 8 different individuals, 3 certified and 8 non-certified.
Thank you, Steve. I'll ask the board for a motion to approve those resignations, terminations, and retirements.
I move we
So moved.
go ahead with those
So
recommendations.
moved.
Okay, there's 3 of us.
Yeah, I heard one motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thanks, Roseanne. Motion's been made and seconded, so I'd like any discussion. Hearing none. Toby, will you do a roll call vote, please?
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Marlo,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Steve, the next item is a final notice of non-renewal. Could you give us some information on that?
Yep, there is one notice of non-renewal. You had a preliminary notice last month. This is now the final notice, as is required by statute, and that is for Dawn Pachniak. And this is simply due to enrollment and budgetary considerations. This has nothing to do with Dawn's performance.
Thanks, Steve. And I remember talking about this last month. I entertain a motion to approve the notice of non-renewal for Dawn Pachniak.
I so move that.
A second, please.
Second.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, a roll call vote to approve the notice of non-renewal.
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Marlo,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Toby. Steve, last item is we had, looks like 3 staff appointments. Could you take us through those, please?
Yes, so we had no certified staff appointments this month. However, non-certified staff, we do have Jenny King, who will be our extended care program supervisor. That was a program we talked about last month, and Jenny has interviewed and accepted that position. And Jack Tully, who will be coming in as an apprentice electrician for the district. So we have those 2 non-certified staff. And then we do have an extracurricular staff appointment, and that is Coy Hansen, who will be working half-time with BHS track as an assistant coach. So those are our 3 appointments this month.
Thank you.
Can
I'll look for a,
I had a comment on Jenny King. I think we're very lucky to get her. I think she's very musical too, but she's, and I'm sure they all are, but I just know her and I think she's going to do an excellent job for us.
thanks, Roseanne. I concur. I think she's a very talented person, so I'm thankful that she's working for the district. I'll look for a motion though to approve those 3 appointments.
So
I
moved.
move we accept those because those are wonderful
Second.
points.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion on these? Hearing none, I'd roll call vote Toby to approve the appointments.
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Marlo,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, I thought I clicked it. Moving on to donation items. Steve, will you walk us through? There's a long list of donations this month.
Yeah, this is an exciting month. Oftentimes following our Teacher Appreciation Week, which many of these have to do with. And so would like to highlight 18 different donations that were received this month. A little bit tough to put a value on many of them, and so I'll refrain from trying to do so, but we'll take a moment here to read off. We had 3 donations at Burlington High School, $105 donation to the girls softball program, and that came from Jeff and Candy Klein in the form of practice jerseys. Had a $100 donation from the athletic department, and that came from Tri-County Officials Association. And finally, $50 to BHS Wrestling to help offset some end of the year awards, and that came from the Burlington Coaching Association. Cooper Elementary School had a donation from Christy Nekteval, and that was for school supplies for students and staff. Again, kind of hard to put a dollar figure to some of those items. At Dyer Intermediate School, some playground balls for students to use at recess and replenish some of what was there. That came from Mr. and Mrs. Jeremy Knaupow, which I'm sure I didn't pronounce that correctly, so apologies if they're listening. And also some school supplies, again, from Christy Nekteval at Dyer Intermediate School. At Lions Center, there was a set of 4 playground balls there as well for students to use at recess, and those were purchased through the Lions PTO, so thanks to them. And then a number of different items at Winkler Elementary School, I think almost exclusively for Teacher Appreciation Week. They celebrated big time at Winkler, and those came in the flowers from Burlington Garden Center. There was ice cream from Hanson's Ice Cream Shop, sub sandwiches from Subway. There were sandwich coupons from Cousins, coupons from Wendy's, Dairy Queen, and Culver's, all as miniature, thank yous and gifts for teacher appreciation. There were also some gift cards in $5 increments that came from Quick Trip. There were donuts and coffee that were donated from the Klein family, additional donuts, juice, and coffee from the Lopez family, and finally some other snacks and refreshments that came from the Winkler PTO. So really just kind of thanks to all of those folks. I know that it's not only Waller that donated these items, but really this time of year, there's just huge appreciation to anyone in the community who reached out in support of Teacher Appreciation Week. I know other schools, lots and lots of parents donating gift cards. I think Karcher might have had some 80 families donate $10 increments for gift cards as well. And so there's a lot of love out there for the work that the staff are doing, and we just want to say thank you.
Standing. I'll look for a motion to approve the donations.
So
I
moved.
move that we approve the donations.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
I'll also just say one thing. I saw something on Cheers website or Facebook that looks like I think they donated some supplies.
I missed who you said, Taylor. Can you
I'm
say
sorry,
who?
I hit the mute button. My apologies. I think Sheer Construction also donated some. I would assume that's probably gonna be on next month's, but I just wanted to acknowledge them because I saw the post during Teacher Appreciation Week.
Okay, thanks.
Remember exactly what it was. I think it was like probably treats and I think cleaning supplies and things of that nature. So I just wanted to acknowledge Sheer Construction for their donation as well.
Excellent, thank you. Anyone else? Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote to approve the donations. Roll call, Toby?
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Marlo,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to the next agenda item is items for information discussion. There's 2 of these. The first one is Jill Oschlager, the WISE Dash demo.
Yep, I was asked if I could just give you a quick little tutorial on WISE Dash in the event you want to look at our data yourselves and be able to navigate all of our data when it comes to test scores, enrollment, AP students, how many students are in postgraduate programs. There's a whole gamut of different things that you can look at when on WISE Dash. So I'm going to share my screen and then we will go from there. So when you're searching on you can see my screen, right? Okay. When you're searching, all you have to do is type in wise-public into your search bar. And then the first one that will come up here is the one that you'll want to click on. Once you're in that site, this is something just for you to know, is that if your browser is not big enough, you'll notice that all the words up here just went away. So just note that if you're looking at my screen now and then later on you're trying to come on here and do the same, make sure that your browser is wide enough, and then you'll see that all of these words show up at the top. It is within all of these tabs that you can look at our data. So a really good one to look at is our state test tab. So if you click on that, you'll see that there's the ACT Aspire. That's what our 9th and 10th grade students take. That's the state requirement. There's information about the ACT that all juniors have to take. Badger is a retired exam, so not really valuable as much for us anymore. And then there's the forward exam that is taken for grades 3 through 8. And then also in 10th grade for social studies and science. So when in here, you can click on any of these tabs and it'll always show you that you can do a forward comparison or ACT comparison. And what that is doing is you can compare us to another school district, or you can compare us to the state. Whenever you see it when it's by itself, that is just looking at our raw data on its own. And then forward trends is always looking at 5-year trend data for just us as a school district. So I'll just go into the comparison first here. Once you get in, something to note is that how to read it is you want to look at all these little X's that are up here on the top. Once you put something in, that will always stay no matter which tab you change to. So if you're wanting to change the data, then you do need to make sure you change what X's you have showing up right here. So right now I'm looking at all students on the forward exam in the subject of English for the 18-19 school year, and I just have statewide data in here. So that's why you see statewide on the left and you see statewide on the right. So in order for us to make some adjustments to that, you use this filter button over here. And all of these are all the different ways that you can sort the data. Group by means if you want to data mine by disability, economic status, gender, you can go all the way down and choose whichever one you want. Let's say that we want to look at the disability status for this category of English language arts for the forward exam. And let's also say that, yep, I just want the forward. DLM is a test that only a select few group of our students who are usually in a self-contained classroom are able to take the DLM. So you can see that data as well. I'll just stay on forward for right now. Forward subject is switching between all the different subjects that students are tested on. School year, again, you can data mine back as far as five years usually. Now you'll notice that the 1920 school year is not on here. That's because last year is when we went virtual and did not take the state assessment. So we will have a gap year in our data due to that. Our students just are wrapping up the forward exam right now. So the 2021 data will not show up until the fall. So the most recent data we have the ability to look at is 18-19.
And just for the sake of everybody listening, that's going to be school districts all over the state, correct? That's not just Burlington specific, right?
Correct. Yep. The tabs that we're on is for everybody. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Good question or clarifier. Thank you. So comparison districts. So in here, you can see we're looking at the state. I can just type in Burlington here, and then it'll pull up Burlington Area School District. Anytime you want to select any of these buttons, you have to just click on the screen over here somewhere, and then see how it populated up here, and now it says Burlington. So now we're getting compared on this data, Burlington versus the state. So you can see here, this one says statewide, where this says Burlington. So we're comparing our forward students with disabilities compared to students without disabilities. And this is all students. on all schools. And I know that because it says here, all types and all schools. So this is all of our students in comparison to all of the students for the state. Students without disabilities, that's what that stands for, and students with disabilities over here. And as you scroll down, it breaks down the data even further. You can scroll over all the bars and see the data a little bit in deeper detail that way, number-wise. You can also see the data with the pop-out here and look at the data strictly through numbers if you were to want to do it that way. You can send the data to yourself as well here. And you can change it from comparing ourselves to the district by comparing us to, to another school district, like let's say Elkhorn. So say instead of the state, we want to compare, wrong tab. Us to Elkhorn. So now you'll see here, I'll click there. Now we have Burlington and Elkhorn. This is all of our students. And we're looking at students with and without disabilities. I can change that and just put all students or gender. Let's do that. I'll change the test type to math. And you can also select the school level. So we can go elementary if we wanted, high school, just the high school, just the middle school. I'll just click elementary for now. Again, always just click off the tab and it'll generate and populate that data for you. So here's Elkhorn over here on this side, and we're looking at math. And here's Burlington looking at math, and we're looking at the gender breakdown of the number of students who were proficient versus not proficient. And then here you can see the breakdown by grade level. So sometimes there's more data to look at underneath, and sometimes there's not. It kind of depends on which one you are looking at. So that's how it works when wanting to sort through different tabs when it comes to a test. You can also do by grade. So you can see here, every single one of these just kind of breaks down even further for you for whatever category you might be intrigued on looking at. You can even just do one of our schools if you want in order to compare school to school within the district as well. So I'll scroll over here and look at the statewide comparison of ACT. So that, again, that would be us compared to Elkhorn, and it stays here like this. Now you'll see it's like, there's no data for elementary because I have elementary here. So just let me change that over here. So that's what's something you got to get used to, is whatever you just had up here is going to stay until you make that adjustment. So here's the comparison of the ACT by gender, Elkhorn versus Burlington. So you can change this to whatever you want and really drill down however you would like to do that. I'll also compare it to a trend. So you can see here's that 5-year trend data. This is just for us. ACT Aspire would do the same thing. So that's 9th and 10th grade. Up here on student engagement, that's kind of a nice one to look at sometimes as well. This one relates to our attendance and discipline data. So you can compare the attendance. Again, we're right now between Elkhorn and Burlington, looking at the high school data. So you can see here, it's nice too, if you're kind of unsure what you're looking at, they do give a really nice little descriptor here so that you do understand what the graphs are telling you. And I always encourage you to keep scrolling down because more and more data sometimes is also below. Another really cool one I think in here is with the graduation. Yep, graduation tab. You can look at our AP exams and compare our students and how we score on the AP assessments in comparison to other school districts. So here's Burlington in comparison to Elkhorn, and then percent of students that scored above a 3 on an AP assessment. So this is really cool data to see, and impressive data on the Burlington side for us. So this is just a really quick snapshot of what it looks like to come into WiseDash and take a look at our data. You can always come over and just keep scrolling and changing and narrowing in on whatever it is you want to narrow in on. And always just remember that this is where you can do that filtering. And also remember these will always stay until you change them to something else, which is kind of cool because you could be in Elkhorn versus Burlington and go between the forward exam, the ACT Aspire, the AP test. Like you can do all of those and keep switching in between them if you're wanting to keep comparing Elkhorn to Burlington, for example. Anyone have any questions?
I was just going to quickly take a moment and just say thanks to Jill for doing this. I know that the board was curious about how do you sort of navigate WiseDash, and just for everybody's information, you know, WiseDash has been around for about 7 years. It was something that DPI created in late 2013 and really started getting some legs around 2014 and beyond. And it is an impressive data warehouse of everything relative to public education in Wisconsin. It is a little bit tricky to navigate. As Jill pointed out, there are some things you sort of have to get used to in terms of how you're sorting and selecting information. But this is one of these phenomenal tools that if you want to get in here and play around a little bit, please do so, because there's just a wealth of information here as Jill has described. So I just wanted to say thanks to Jill and maybe give you an opportunity to think about any questions you might have for her.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Jill. This is very helpful. You need to find a power outlet.
Yeah, the biggest takeaways is all you have to do is type in WiseDash public, and then make sure your screen is big enough so that you can see all these tabs up here. And then always remember that you usually can see that comparison school to school. This would be just our data. And then this is that trend data, 5-year trend data. Filter tab's always over here. And then this always just stays here until you switch it. And it also took me a bit to say, like, where's the enter button, right? To switch, like, okay, disability status, like, now what? Because it's not generating up here. Just always remember you have to click off the boxes somewhere else on the screen, and then it will generate up and you'll see it show up here. So that's how you can really make sure that what you were clicking on and wanting to see came through and is what you are wanting to look at. Those are just the best quick tips to not get frustrated about it.
I believe if your screen is too narrow, or if you're on a phone, there's actually they'll show the 3 bars on the right-hand side, and you can click that and that'll drop down the menu to show you the rest, I believe.
Yep, yes, you're right. It kind of does that here. So you can see all the tabs. This is what Barry's talking about, is instead of seeing ACT graduates at the top, you would see it on the side here. And then you can also navigate it that way. So that's what Barry's referring to, is the 3 little lines here, if your screen's not wide enough.
Anybody else have questions or comments?
A lot of information.
Absolutely. And Jill, thank you for joining us and giving us the walkthrough. That was helpful because it would have been hard to navigate on our own. You saved us time fumbling around trying to look at it. I think it'll be interesting to look at. It'll be a great tool to compare some of our local results with our neighbors and statewide.
Mm-hmm. It is. You can spend a lot of time on there and gain a lot of insight. So encourage you all to do that.
Thank you, Jill.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we had one other item on our agenda for information or discussion. That's our DPI corrective action plan. Steve, will you give us an update on where we stand with the corrective action plan?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to take a moment and remind the board of what our timeline was from when we got the report. Essentially, we had about 4 weeks to get something back to DPI. That first week was trying to understand really what the format was expected to be in terms of complying with DPI's expectations of us. We spent week 2 really trying to get something crafted that met that criteria that DPI explained. And then in week 3, we spent a lot of week 3 trying to get some feedback from DPI about whether or not they felt like we were on the right track. And part of what DPI had shared is that this was really a new process for them as well. And so they had put a little bit of a work task force together to be able to give us some feedback, which they did, and got some additional clarity in that week 3. And then part also reached out to folks. Many of you have been in trainings with Payne and Fraser or National Equity Project. We reached out to them as well as some folks at UW Parkside to get feedback as well, and then spent most of that 4th week updating and correcting and making sure that we had the must-haves that DPI expected to be in there, because they gave us some pretty tight non-negotiables. So that was submitted on Friday. At the time that we submitted that, we also placed it on our website just so that it was out there for the public to see. But I did also want to let you know that DPI indicated to us that the process would be that once they received it, they would take a week or maybe 2 weeks to review that and then get back to us. And so for now, it is essentially just pending a response from DPI and hopefully their approval so that we can then begin to move forward from there. But just wanted to let the board know that that's the status of the corrective action plan. And as we had discussed and talked about a little bit, some of those items, certainly included where we started to talk about climate and culture and policy and procedures and curriculum and training and coaching and professional development, as well as opportunity and access. Those were kind of the big tanks, if you will, of information that was included in that report that went back.
And I have a statement I guess I'd like to share with the public on regarding our corrective action plan and potentially some of our next steps. As all the board members know, Monday, April 26th, we met in closed session as a school board to discuss the corrective action plan we just submitted recently. And as part of the discussion, the board considered who might be involved in long-term plan to disrupt our system and create a culture free of racism. The 30-day plan, which is a legal document, was developed with input from our attorneys, the National Equity Project, principals, and select external professionals who have supported the district's work so far around equity, diversity, and inclusion. It's the work that extends beyond the 30-day plan that'll create the much-needed lasting change. This work will take the input of students, parents, and community groups. This work will include the voices of people of color. Student voices will need to be heard. We will involve people who can offer new perspectives and who are willing to approach the challenge with curiosity. We will work to harness the different voices in the community to make our schools more inclusive and welcoming to all. The board has not yet determined how big this group will be or how to solicit participation. The districts use and will continue to reference the United States Department of Education and the Office of Civil Rights document, a checklist for a comprehensive approach to addressing harassment. We will examine every item on that list, including the 3 priorities BCDR lists, to ensure the Burlington Area School District can offer an inclusive environment for all students. This work is urgent, and we need to remind ourselves to slow down at times and be thoughtful and not give quick answers to complex problems. We hope we can all agree on that the work ahead has the potential not only to improve the culture within Burlington, but also to bring justice to Black and Brown students across the state. So, thanks. Any other board members have any? Yeah, Barry, it looks like you have a comment or question.
I just had a question. One of the things brought in here is the comments about the external auditor. To be blunt, is DPI going to pick a path before we have an external audit? Because they told us we were reporting properly, and then they changed their mind and said we weren't reporting properly. And then they said to ask DPI if we're reporting properly, and they said we were reporting properly. before we spend money on an audit, do they have their minds made up as to what the standard will be?
It's a great question, Barry. Their must-have for us in terms of an external audit really had to do with us kind of taking a good hard look at our what I would reference as disciplinary process or disciplinary practice, and then just sort of a comprehensive audit. So those two things, and DPI is essentially saying, you know, we want you to take the time to have an audit done so that you can then articulate what comes next and be very, very purposeful about it. And so I understand that. They're essentially saying, don't put the cart in front of the horse. We would anticipate that many of the things that we've highlighted are things that will come back in that audit. Conversely, and maybe more directly to your question, the idea of our reporting practices, which is their third action, that is something that we will work with DPI with in partnership. Currently, PI9, which is the non-discrimination sort of Wisconsin version of how to implement the federal's non-discrimination expectations, is currently working its way through the legislature. It's on the governor's desk as we speak, unless something's changed since late last week. And right now, it is confusing for schools as to what gets reported. Some schools report very little, other schools report all kinds of things, and it's inconsistent. And we've had that conversation with DPI and are going to make sure that when we go back and do that review, that we'll capture anything that maybe should have been in there that wasn't. It was not intentional if that's the case, or perhaps nothing changes because we go back and it is as it appears currently. So we will do that in collaboration with DPI to make sure it's done to their satisfaction. But I do think that what they're suggesting with the audit is going to be a different element than what they were asking about or clarifying in terms of reporting. Hope that makes sense.
Thank you for that information, Steve. I do support the work we have going forward. I just want to be clear that we're moving purposefully and not chasing a moving target.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So just a quick question. I mean, so a lot of this stuff that's in the corrective action plan, let's say DPI kicks this back and says, okay, you know, everything that you submitted here is fine, move forward. A lot of this stuff that's listed in the plan is going to come back to the board for approval, correct? Just a general question for those who are listening, because I think that's a question that I got a few times this week since it was posted out there. So I just want to clarify that, yes.
I guess I'm not entirely sure what, if there's a specific thing, Taylor. I think it would operate as anything else has. There are certain things that you've given administration authority to execute. There are other things that come in front of the board because they're policy related, or they meet a certain dollar threshold, or because there's a certain controversy that maybe surrounds something. But I think any of those items would be taken as a standalone based on our practice that we have currently.
Yeah, I guess things I'm just looking at would be like curriculum and materials. I think it's kind of a big thing. I think that's kind of a hot button issue everywhere. So that's my 2 cents.
Any other questions or comments related to the DPI corrective action plan? Excellent. Well, Steve and administrative team, I can't say enough about the hard work you put into this corrective action plan. Thank you so much. And obviously the work's not done yet. I just wanted to acknowledge, you know, that portion of it. So thanks. Moving on in our agenda, items for action. We have 10 of them. And I think Dan will be busy with the first 4. So thanks for joining us, Dan. First one is district vehicles. Can you lead us through?
Yeah, thank you for having me this evening. As Peter said, the first item for action would be a district vehicle. I can share my screen in a second, but I figured I'd give a brief overview. This would be replacing one of the grounds vehicles. Currently, we have a 2016 Chevy 1-ton dump bed with a plow and we have a 2010 Chevy 1-ton dump bed with a plow, and then we have a 2003 3/4 ton long box Chevy with a plow, which currently the transmission just went out on. So as part of our, plan to, keep continuing with replacement of vehicles, this was the year that was in our 5-year and 10-year plan to replace a vehicle for outside. So I solicited just through Lynch and through Miller Motors to bid out a new vehicle. There is some issues, as everybody knows, with autos right now, with the chips, with getting vehicles and them being able to bid. 2021s are hard to come by. Some 2022s aren't being made yet. So this was what I was able to garnish. And as you can see, I went out to bid earlier in the year for a budget figure for our 2021-22 budget. So this is actually for next year's budget cycle. But I wanted to just kind of give you a brief overview. We would be replacing the 2003 Chevy long box, which has 110,000 miles on it, and the transmission is out on now. So I will share my screen. So I sent this RFP out to Lynch Motors and Miller Motors. It gave a description of what the district was looking for. And then also, what our terms and conditions were. I heard back from Lynch. At the time, they were not able to get a 1-ton. I did go back out to them about 3 weeks ago to see if they could submit another proposal. So they've submitted a proposal for a 3/4 ton with a 9.5-foot plow. And with the plow and the truck, it came back at just under $44,000. Miller Motors at that time solicited out for a 2021 1-ton. They also said that they would not be able to order a new one, and that the 2022 models we would be able to start ordering in May. So at the same time that I reached out to Lynch, I reached out to Miller Motors for another proposal for us to order a brand new vehicle. So all these proposals come with what we were specified in the bid specifications, along with a 9'6" V plow. So then Miller Motors, when I reached out to both Miller and Lynch the second time, this was the quote that they got for me for actually ordering a brand new one. And as you can, it comes with the V plow, and it would be a brand new 2022 F350 1-ton. It is actually an extended cab vehicle, so that we can hold, because now our grounds crew, when there's 3 people, sometimes they go out together. It just gives them a little bit more room. And after reviewing the bids, it would be, I would like the board to approve me moving forward with Miller Motors bid for the 2022 Ford F350 with the 9'6" Western V plow for the $42,861. I would need to get this on order, and hopefully we could get it in the fall, but there is no guarantees because of the automobile industry right now and the chips and everything that they're trying to get. So
I guess that's my immediate question, Dan, is even before this chip shortage with the auto industry, last January, trucks were out 9-12 months on builds. Now that's compounded with the chip issue. If we don't have this thing by wintertime, what are we gonna do?
Well, and my plan is still to fix the truck that we currently have. I can get the transmission fixed for relatively, not inexpensive, but it still would be worth fixing it because it is worth more to the district fixed than with it not running. So my plan is to have that transmission fixed. I can have it fixed by any of the local mechanics in town and get a warranty on that transmission as well. And so we would have that truck still available. From talking with Miller Motors, when I went back out to solicit for the 2022s, at that point they had said that they should have no problem getting it to us by September, October. But I cannot guarantee that. I look at the lots and I see 3 brand new trucks down there and that's it. And that's just surprising. So.
Yeah, this delay is probably looking at maybe like 8 or 9 months. So, I mean, this is kind of big. We'll be lucky if we actually get it when they say they give it to us. Just an FYI.
Well, that's why I was a little curious. I know the second option was a little more expensive, like 2 or 3 grand more expensive, but it sounds like we could get it now. Is that worth it, or is it?
They would have to trade to another lot. So that was the discussion, that they could find us one, but they would be trading to another lot, and they can't guarantee. At that point, when they did the bid, they had one, but they can't guarantee that they could find another one.
Okay.
So that's why I reached back out. I can reach back out to Lynch as well, but I did send them an email a few weeks ago, the same time I did Miller Motors, and hadn't heard anything back. So I think either dealership in town would be great. You know, it's great to work with. So to me, it doesn't matter if it's a Ford or a Chevy, but that the new 2022 is, you know, the best cost. So
Obviously, we're driving around a 2003 here. What's the life expectancy, or what's the utility you're expecting out of this new vehicle?
I would say at least 10 to 15 years. Our 2010 has 67,000 miles on it. Our 2016 has like 28. It's not so much the mileage that racks up the abuse on our vehicles. It's the snow plowing and the salt and just the stop and go that they take. So.
Excellent. Thanks, Dan. I guess I'd ask for a motion then to approve the purchase of the Miller Motors truck and snowplow.
I move that we accept that bid and go for that for the Miller motor.
For the price of $42,861, clarify.
And tax.
Do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
second that.
Okay, thanks. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
I
Hearing
think we
none.
have to be clear on the motion that came through. Maybe the school district doesn't pay sales tax on it, but I presume it does. So it's going to come in above this, right, Dan?
The school district does not pay sales tax.
Oh, well, there you go. So it shouldn't exceed
Might have
42,661.
some plate fees, but the plate fees are very minimal for municipal plates. So.
Okay.
Yeah, so just to clarify then on the motion, we are, the motion I understand is to approve the purchase from Miller Motors of the 2022 Ford F-350 Super Cab truck at a price of $42,861. Does that seem fair? Did I capture that correct?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Toby, would you do the roll call, please?
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Marlo,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Dan, would you move on to the next item, which I believe is carpet at Waller Elementary? Carpet installation.
Yeah, so at Waller Elementary, I went out to bid for the, at the time, it was just for the upper level corridors. And after receiving a bid back earlier in the year prior to this first RFP, I was solicited for both corridors to be done at the same time. As you know, with summer work that's going on this summer, there is going to be a new secured entrance put in downstairs on the lower level in classroom 101 and 102. And at that point, there will be, you know, new carpeting and new entry tile put in there as well. And last summer, we finished the upper level of Cooper and did the carpet up there as well. And I've heard great praise from, you know, staff. They've liked the noise reduction. It's been actually okay to maintain. So with working with Victoria and some other folks, we went out to bid for Waller to have the upper and lower level corridors carpeted. We solicited this out to several different contractors some in the area, some just outside our area. I hope you folks read. I'm not going to read through all the different notes, but I did walk through and answer everybody's questions that they had in regards to their regards to this proposal. I received 3 different proposals: one from Carpetland, for 50,860. I received one from Halverson Carpet Center for $43,835, and one through Lippert Flooring for $59,083. After reviewing the bids and talking to the contractors to make sure that they were all apples to apples, it would be my suggestion to the board that we would go with Halverson Carpet Center for the $43,835.
Thanks, Dan. I guess I would entertain a motion to approve the bid from Halverson Carpet Company at a total of $43,835.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, but motions been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, then I'd like to call for a vote to approve
Think Barry,
Halverson Carpet.
Actually,
Oh, I can't see you, Barry, because you just have to jump in now, Barry. I can't see you.
I'll wave harder. So you said you compared them apples to apples, Dan. What's your thought here as to why there's such a discrepancy? Because even from the mid bid and the low bid, you're talking $6,000. I mean, it's over 10%.
I can't tell you exactly why Lippert was so much higher than Halverson. Halverson actually got the bids through Shear through all the projects in the district as well. So I don't know if they're just, because they're on site, they're able to get, so they're doing the secured entrance at Waller, they're doing the secured entrance at Cooper, and they're doing the classrooms at Dyer. So, that would be my thought as to why, because they're already going to be there on site. So they just wanted to get, the rest of the, the job as well. So
That makes sense. If they're already mobilized, there's some cost reduction there.
yeah, and each of them kind of have a little bit difference on how much prep they think they're going to do, but that's their own way of bidding it. I don't list how much prep there is. That's why we do a walkthrough. So there is a little bit of difference in prep prices. So some folks think that there's going to be more and some are less. But I think the main reason is because of them already being, mobilized in the district. So.
Thank you.
Any other discussion items for Dan? Otherwise, Toby, would you do a roll call vote?
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Marlo,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Roseanne, Susan,
Yes.
Thanks, Toby. Dan, third item looks like the Burlington High School parking lot asphalt.
So as you folks know, last year we replaced actually did a mill and a relay in the front area of the parking lot at the high school as part of my plan to get all the asphalt replaced prior to having to do a complete tear out, and full replacement is to continue with half the basically from the entrance going all the way through half of the area in the back of the parking lot. So I solicited out to about 5 different contractors. We had a bid walkthrough on the 13th. Only 3 attended, but we did get 3 competitive bids back from these folks. So as you can see in the map, this is we're gonna, from where we enter into the parking lot, we are gonna do a little bit of work here by where the auto shop is because they can't quite make it into the door. So we're gonna remove a little bit of curb and add some more asphalt so they have a better entrance into their auto shop area. But then we're gonna mill and repave approximately half of the student parking and athletic parking in the back along with the entrance. And then for next year, we will be doing the rest of it. So all the asphalt at BHS will be, 3 years old. So we can continue with, our replacement of asphalt in the district. After receiving the bids and reviewing them, we received bids from Cicchini Asphalt, and they came in at $121,742. We received a bid from Asphalt Contractors for $134,758. And then we received a bid from Poblocki Paving at $138,642. And after reviewing the proposals from all three contractors, it would be my recommendation that the district accept the Cicchini, I probably am butchering their name, but Asphalt LLC proposals for $121,742.
Move we go ahead with the Cicchini Asphalt LLC proposal.
Second.
All right, a motion's been made and seconded to go with the Cicchini Asphalt LLC. Any discussion? I have a question. Dan, is this money from the referendum or is this part of your maintenance budget?
This is part of the capital projects budget, and this would be 2021, 2022 capital projects. I like to get them out a bit earlier in the year and get them locked in so that I can get them on the schedule, because of course our budget doesn't start until July 1st and half of our summer is done by July 1st. So if especially these larger projects, if I get these folks locked in, I can get on the schedule, and then I'm not fighting with them at the end of August when school's, starting and we're still, doing these larger projects. So
I could say as a parent who drives their high school and middle school student every day on this parking lot, I am a big fan of this project. I'm also going to say, incidentally, I meant to say this earlier, our staff at the high school and middle school. So Jill, I can see you're on the line. I am grateful that you were out there when we went back in person full days, because the traffic at the high school, it seemed like it went up tenfold. And to have our administrators out there helping direct traffic was extremely helpful, and I think helped keep things flowing well. So thank you.
Yeah, it was good for us to be out there, I think.
Quick clarification, Dan, these are Fund 10 budget, right?
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'd ask Tony to do a roll call to approve Cicchini Asphalt doing the asphalt paving at the BHS parking lot.
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Marlo,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Dan, last one, maybe the most interesting. It looks like the WBASD Tower project.
Yes, this has been a interesting and long process. This has been in discussion and has involved 3 different engineers, multiple different folks, lots of time, lots of different studies, looking back at studies that were done back 20 years ago, getting bids for multiple different areas where we could put the tower or relocate so that we could still transmit to the same amount of folks that they would like to broadcast to. So I was hoping this was going to be a lot easier and not necessarily easier, but wouldn't take as much time to develop and get to where we're at now. So just an overview, a year and a half ago, we started looking at, the replacement of the tower. At that time, we involved Higgins Tower. Higgins came down and took a look at, the different heights of the towers from where we currently broadcast from. And if you guys aren't aware, at BHS, we transmit over to the current Karcher building, and that's where the actual FM transmitter is that broadcasts WBSD. So with that building coming down, it has been on our radar for the last couple of years now to get that moved. There is lots of different folks that we had to go through. The FCC, we got approval from them to put the tower at the high school and up the size, because we've got to look at even they look at who's broadcasting in different areas. They look at how wide your broadcasting is, and to make sure you're not interfering with any other, radio stations. There's more to it than it's way above what I know about all of this. We also looked into aviation to make sure that if we put a tower up that was taller than the current tower that we had, that we wouldn't have to put a light on it, or that we wouldn't interfere with the airport. So that came back as cleared. So it took just step after step after step. I shared with you guys a summary page from Sheer Construction, because I ended up working with them as well, because we've just been a team, for the last few years. And then I shared with you bids from Higgins Towers and bids from the structural steel that have to go into the building. So the bids that came back is to add an additional, actually put a brand new tower that's 80 feet tall onto the building at the high school. This would allow for the same broadcasting area. It was discovered through our structural engineer that the current roof structure cannot support the new load of the tower. So this was also in a study back in 2000 that this would have to be reinforced. So part of this proposal is we would have to tear open the roof at the high school. And then we would be adding a 24-inch I-beam that would span from one supporting wall to the other, closing back up the roof, and then putting the new tower on top of it, but still being able to use the same guide wires that are at the high school currently. This would allow for none of the broadcasting to decrease at the high school. The FCC, like I said, already has approved it. It doesn't interfere with the airport. And I did talk to the building inspector to see if there was any other, special permits that we would have to pull. And he said, since there's an existing tower there, we can add on to the tower or replace the tower without having to have a permit. So the proposal that is brought to you is to replace the tower that's at the high school with a new 80-foot tower and to reinforce the roof. So that proposal, which I'll share my screen now, takes into consider some general conditions. This is going to be prep work inside those corridors because we're going to have to get into a classroom, and we're going to have to basically classroom and 2 corridors and set up temporary walls so that we don't, it's masonry work. The masons they're not the cleanest workers. So we're going to try to, make sure that we don't destroy the entire second floor of the building. There's some demo work that has to be done. They have to reinforce those load-bearing walls. They have to pour basically concrete or a mix down inside those walls to support the new structure. They have to frame that up. What is nice though is that because we've already got Nation Roofs approved, and they are going to be on site replacing that section of the roof. So it actually lines in perfectly from when their schedule would be there, so they could open up the roof for us. And then structural steel is the ace bid. They came at $23,000 for that I-beam to have that placed into the building. Let's see if I can zoom in on this. Then a replacing of acoustical ceiling tile, some touch-up paint, and then Higgins, this would be the $40,000 is for the tower itself. So the entire price, excluding the construction management fee, came out at $86,366. It was a little bit more than what I was expecting. We did look into having a freestanding tower placed next to the high school, but we would have to put all new guide wire anchors in and possibly have guide wires going down into the lawn. But the tower itself was still in about that $50,000 range because we wouldn't have the height of the building. We looked back at Mount Tom. If you read through some of those documents, there was one of the engineers that we were still working with that was Bob Evans, who suggested that that is not the place where we should place it. It would also take that Tom Gilding would have to go out to Mount Tom if there's any problems. We looked at different towers in the area, and there was nothing that could support what we were trying to accomplish here. So we ended up always circling back at just adding on to the one that's at the high school or putting a new tower on. Currently, Tom Gilding and the radio station has bought $17,000 in new equipment for the new FM transmitter and some other equipment that was needed for this tower. So that has been purchased through their budget. Tom Gilding, I talked with him today. He said that they are continuing strong with their support. They still are able to garnish $30,000 in sponsorships. So the radio station is going strong. There will be student involvement again next year. And it's nice that it's sad that we're one of the last radio stations that is, around for a high school for them to have that sort of basically ability to go into that sort of field or even have fun with that. What I would like to seek from the board is the approval to move forward with this. I know there will be follow-up questions, which I would like to, if there's any questions now, I'd like to talk about that now. Funding would be supported by the referendum and more than likely interest earnings. So there is funding for it. So I would seek approval to move forward with the proposal, and it would be in the cost of $92,844.
Thanks, Dan. I guess I'd entertain a motion then to approve the proposal by Share Construction for $92,844.
I move that we do go on with this proposal with Share for $92,844 for the new tower for the radio station.
I second the motion.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
I just wanted to say something that in the whole state, there are very few high schools that have a radio station, and we should be pretty proud of that because they certainly do a good job, and that helps the kids who work at the radio station in many ways. I'm very for it.
From my understanding, there's only 2 left in the state, and we're one of the last ones that's 24/7.
Good.
Where's the other one, Dan? I'm just curious if you know.
The other one is in Sheboygan South.
Oh, interesting. Okay. How long would the station be down for?
The station would be down approximately a month. So I've been working with Tom Gilding. They can still stream via the internet.
Okay.
So he's going to be broadcasting after this meeting to say, we'll be coming back, but we're, rebuilding our tower, and please, still listen in at WBSD. I don't know what I haven't logged into their live streaming online, but that's their plan during that time. So.
Any other discussion, board members, or questions?
I've got a question that, Dan, I don't think you're gonna have the answer to. Maybe you do, but if you don't, if we could look into it, maybe. I know very little about the FM antenna. Is there any chance of leasing any space off this mast to, say, like cell companies or anything to recoup some costs?
I have looked into the same thing. I haven't asked anybody yet, but it was brought up. It would be something that we could look into the district to see if there would be anybody that could lease off of it, because the structure would support it. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Good question. Good question, Barry.
Yeah, we're always looking for new revenue. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Anything else, board members? Hearing none, then I guess I'll call for a roll call vote to approve the motion to use Share Construction for the new tower.
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Marlo,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Toby. So the first 4 action items were building and grounds related. We turn our next 3 to Ruth Schenning and business office items, starting with student fees.
Good evening, everybody. The student fees, this is attached in your board docs. Pretty straightforward. No real, well, one kind of proposed change, but the book and material fees, no recommended change. The meal prices, the only recommended change is to the adult lunch and breakfast price, and that's a formula-driven calculation based on the reimbursement rates. So we're kind of told what that has to be. Then down under the athletics and activities section, the one kind of main suggestion we're making is that third line, BHS after school extracurricular clubs and activity fees. Prior to 2021, that used to be $35. We did decide to waive that this year because we weren't charging to get into the events and very little club activity. That's what's confusing when that's combined. It's an athletic pass plus a club activity fee. So the proposal is to split out those 2 items below and let's call it what it is. So kind of eliminating that line And then in that section, the student activity pass, if you look at 2021, it was $10, but that used to be grades K-8. So now we're just saying it'll be all grades, no matter, what school you're in, just to have one fee and athletic pass for $24, and that's based on 12 games. So if you look at the individual game admission right up above for $2, that would be $24. So if people don't think they're going to go to that many games, then they can just pay the individual admission price. And then therefore we thought we should adjust the adult price to be based on 12 events as well. So that would go to $36. Going down, the parking pass would go back up to $100, which is what it used to be, now that we're anticipating to be in school 5 days a week. And then the participation fees, that first line, the extracurricular clubs, $10. So that's the new part of what's split out. So what used to be $35, we're proposing to be $24 for the student athletic pass, and then a $10 a club fee that would be unlimited clubs throughout the year. So it's just a one-time fee, no matter how many clubs you're in. And then the athletic fee and the instrument rental are the same. So hopefully that makes sense. And then the BHS there's another attachment that has all their individual class fees.
Excellent. Thanks, Ruth. I guess I'd ask for a motion then to approve the proposed student fees for 2021-22.
I move that we accept the fees for 21-22.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a roll call vote.
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Marlo,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Excellent. Ruth, you want to move on to transportation with
Right.
Thomas Bus?
So there's two attachments. One is the actual letter of the proposal from Thomas Bus, and the other one is a historical costing summary. So if we look at that, there's very little proposed increase. The base rate is, there's no proposed increase, so that would be the third year in a row with no increase. For 21-22, the main increase is under item C, the per cost, a increase of just slightly under 1%, and that's related to the driver hourly rate, that they want to be able to increase that a little bit. And then that in turn drives the minimum charge for the out of district charter. So that would jump 50 cents. And also the 4-year-old kindergarten midday runs are based on a per run charge. So that would increase 50 cents as well. Otherwise, those couple things, the rest of it is proposed to status quo.
Thanks,
So
Ruth.
Ruth, this takes into account all the changes with redistricting and everything else?
Yes, at this point, they are fairly confident that they will be able to do it with the same number of bus runs unless something changes. But at this point, they pretty much have it all the routes prepared and have gone through that, and they're pretty confident that they will be able to do it with the same number of runs.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'd ask for a motion then to approve the 2021-22 transportation proposal from Thomas Bus Company.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion or any further discussion?
The only thing I'd offer is, Thomas has been very good to us all these years. I'm glad we're able to stick with the local company. They've been competitive and they've been good to the district. So I want to thank them for that.
Yeah, thanks for your comments, Barry. I feel the same way even during the COVID. I thought they treated us very fairly. I can see Roseanne agreeing with that too, and yeah, and Susan too. And they're a great local partner. So I'm grateful that we can work with them. Any further discussion, board? Hearing none, then Toby, would you do a roll call vote?
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Marlo,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes,
Roseanne,
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. It's May, which means it's health insurance time. So Ruth, and Marlo is a new board member. This was like the first thing I dealt with when I got on the board. So sit back, you're going to enjoy.
Great.
Sorry, we always try to get this done earlier and it just doesn't happen. So I guess if we can just talk a little bit and then I can go through that costing. Just kind of talk you through where we currently are. Just as a reminder, we have one plan for our active employees. If you recall, 2 years ago, we had two different plans. So we had a 4,000, 8,000 deductible plan that we called our base plan. And then we had a 2,000, 4,000 deductible plan that we called the buy-up plan. So the employees that chose the buy-up plan were responsible for paying that difference in premium. Then when we did the 2021 renewal, that difference just made the 2,000, 4,000 plan. It didn't make financial sense to offer anymore. That premium differential was more than the deductible difference. The other change we made for 2021, our current school year then, is we increased that from 4,000, 8,000 up to 5,000, 10,000. But then the district agreed to put money into everybody's individual HSA accounts for that deductible increase. So we put in 1,000 for an individual or 2,000 for a family into their HSA accounts, in essence, to bring that deductible back down to 4 and 8. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Within that 10,000 plan, we do have what's called an embedded deductible. So it's capped at $5,000 a person in the plan. So that's kind of a built-in sub-deductible. They are considered high deductible plans, so the employee pays dollar for dollar, whether it's a service or a prescription, up to that deductible in network. And after that, then the plan fully kicks in. So there's no co-insurance after that. There's no co-pays either. Then the retirees are also on the WA Trust plan, but we left them at the 4,000, 8,000 deductible and do not do HSA contributions for that group, just because it gets kind of complicated as to who's eligible and where they're at with their benefit levels and such. We do have a separate Medicare supplement plan that we move people over to, so not the same, a different plan from the actives once they become Medicare eligible. So at that point, they have to sign up for, everybody gets A, there's no cost to that, but they have to sign up for B, which has a cost. And then we provide a B supplement and the Part D prescription. So that's been a kind of a cost saving measure that we implemented several years ago. Then the renewal process, as far as WA, they're telling us our loss ratio was running just over 100%. So they are paying out more in cost than we're paying in premium, which as a company you never want to see. So they are stating that our calculated renewal for 21-22 starting in July at 17%. They initially released a 12%. So this is same plan design. But at 12%, that's over $500 for us. In the meantime, as all this was going on, we went to the market and got other quotes. We did also let WE know this. I shouldn't say we are continuing to work with M3. So Jeff Ireland at M3 was doing our negotiating and said, okay, WE, what's your final best offer? And they came back with 9.9%, which is $427,000. Any second year rate cap that they would give us was over 10%. As far as market, we had Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield declined to give us a bid due to a couple of high cost claims that we have that they felt would be ongoing. Was WCA Group Health Trust that we were with several years ago. They basically declined a bid saying they couldn't be competitive, mainly due to our experience. And then we did go back to Humana. And of course they had some options for us to consider. The first option they gave us was a 3.14% for the first year renewal with a cap on the second year of 11.99%. So that costs out about $135,000. We said, okay, well, we didn't really like the 12% for the second year cap. What's another option? Then they said, well, we could do 5% on the first year and then the second year rate cap of 9.99%. So both of those options combined over 2 years are approximately 15%. But that 5% option then is about $215,000. So we're looking at 427 versus 215. They did offer a third option at 0%. However, that had no second year rate cap, which historically Humana will bid low to get it. And then the second year they have these extremely high double digit, like 20 to 30% rate increases. So I would not recommend that option. We did have the staff insurance advisory committee that we met with once to review this. Of course, everybody's first choice is to not make a carrier change and to keep the plan that we want. But knowing that there's at least a 5% difference, if not more, I don't know how we cannot make the carrier change. I mean, it's over $200,000. So I guess administratively, and I can go into the costings if you want to see that. We're thinking that we need to recommend switching to Humana. Initially, I think, well, I guess one other thing I need to share first is long-term, we are thinking that we want to look at pursuing perhaps what's called a captive. So it's basically a self-funded option where we would join with other school districts. It doesn't have to be another, it could be municipalities, it could even be businesses, but you join with other entities and basically form your own insurance company. So you find your own network, you set up your own plan design, but you also buy this stop loss reinsurance. So pick an amount, 100,000, 150, 200,000. You buy this reinsurance to protect yourself from these super high cost claims. Whether that would take a year or 2 years to put in place, there's differences of opinion on that. Steve and I think it's going to take more than a year. M3 thinks it possibly could be done in a year. So we would like that some comfort level of the second year rate cap with Humana, which I think is why we were kind of leaning toward the 5% with the 10%, just to keep the second year lower while we pursue other options. So more to have that second year lower cap. We also have the cash in lieu. I think we need to leave that the same. I did see a survey. There are some districts in the area, there are some have discontinued, but some do have right around that same amount, 3,500, 3,600, 4,000, 4,500, and we're at 3,864 a year. The other thing we need to talk about is the district HSA contribution. I think we should keep the 1,000, 2,000. But if you also recall, we implemented our own wellness plan last year. We outsourced that with that Health Source Solutions. And we said that whoever did certain activities within that program to earn points, we said 250 points, and there's some required components in there that whoever met those criteria would get an additional HSA contribution. So we have yet to determine what that amount is. So that's part of this costing that I think if we jump over to that, unless anybody has any questions on just the basics of the plan before we go into that.
Yeah, just curious why we potentially still didn't look into co-pays again this year.
Why did we not look at that?
Yeah. Yes, sorry, yes.
The co-pay structure would be at the end of the deductible that's met. So it's not upfront, it's not all along. So if somebody had a $10,000 family plan, the co-pays wouldn't kick in until after you've already had a $10,000 deductible plan. I don't know that there's the cost savings for instituting that additional cost to the employee there's not a very big differential. And knowing that we have the two offers from Humana that are, the 3.14% or the 5%, we didn't feel the need to make that plan design change. If we had our only offer was, 15 or 20%, yes, we would be looking, but knowing that we had the lower offers, we didn't feel that we needed to go there yet. Okay. All
Real
right.
quick on that vein, was that asked of the insurance committee? If it meant bringing on co-pays, if they could keep their current provider, would they be interested in that?
We did not ask that specific question.
Okay.
They were, I think anything that would add cost, they were not interested in. So they were willing they would pick a carrier change over a cost increase. So we did have that general conversation, not the co-pay specific discussion, but.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Ruth, can you remind me who's on the insurance advisory committee? I know it's staff, some administration, or is it just kind of like a cross section of folks in the district?
We did try to get all buildings and all employee groups. The last couple of years, it has kind of dwindled on who is participating. So we probably need to have a regroup to try to get people that are interested in it. There's probably 10 or 12 of us that get together, but we try to get a cross section of employee groups and buildings.
I would just add to Ruth, I don't want to overcomplicate things, but the questions about copays, just as a reminder, last spring, we had a copay as an option when when we were considering rising or raising the overall cost of the deductible and then instituting the HSA. And we opted not to go the route of the copay yet, only because that savings was much lower than the option of raising the deductible. And frankly, Jeff's recommendation from M3 was, just be careful, because once you do that, you'll never undo that. And we run such a high deductible plan that it almost ends up being moot relative to costing. So that's one of the places we're stuck in terms of long-term strategy. And I just wanted to kind of remind the board that we went through that last spring as well.
No, thank you for that. Anything else? All right, I'm going to try to share my screen. Maybe.
All right, while you're doing that, just real quick, for the catch and lieu number, has that number kind of stayed where it's at in terms of the employees that are on that, or have you seen that increase or decrease over last year?
The number of employees that are on it?
Yeah, because it looks like it's what, 93.2 FTEs, correct?
Yeah, it's stayed right around there. I think that has gone up because the last couple of years, a couple of years ago, I think it was like upper 70s. So I think it has jumped a little bit. Oh goodness. Oh, here. You can see that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's a lot of numbers on here. I'm not intending to go through all this. It's just giving you, if you are interested in the detail, like the number of family and single plans we have. I think this is a little bit interesting here. This district HSA contribution, we have about 79% of our employees that are contributing on their own. So not everybody is signed up for an HSA. Some are not eligible to. So if they have other coverage that's not a high deductible plan, they're not eligible to contribute to an HSA. And this is the retiree information. Here's what Taylor was referring to, this cash in lieu. We currently have 95 people that are waiving the health plan. So that's about $360,000. And then we have, this is that Medicare supplement plan that I was referring to that we move people over to. So the cost of on our current plan is just shy of 5.2 million. Then this blue, I'm just going to focus on these totals at the bottom here. This blue number is the WA renewal at the 9.9%. That difference from the existing plan is, as we referenced before, $427,000. I'm going to come back to these other two numbers at the bottom in a minute. And then here, this green number is the Humana 5% option for a difference of $215,000. And then this orangish color is the 3.14% option for $135,000. So the one, let's see, where do I want to show you this? The one decision or the recommendation that I would ask the board to act on is under here on this HSA contribution. So it doesn't matter which color you look at. Here we have 161 people with a family plan that are eligible for an HSA. So we're putting in $2,000 into their HSA plan. We do that over every single payroll. So it's divided over, for most people, 24 pays. And then 58 people with a single plan, the 1,000 is divided over 24 pays. So our recommendation is to continue that for anybody that's on the health plan and eligible for an HSA. But then the second piece, this lump sum here, those are the people that will meet the eligibility criteria of that wellness program that we were talking about. Kind of we're struggling with what is an amount that's reasonable, that isn't reasonable enough that it's worth people's efforts, but not so high that it's cost prohibitive. Our intention here was to do, so during calendar year 2021, people are earning these points and doing these activities. So then in early 2022, who's ever earned that would get a lump sum deposit in their HSA account, either late January or early February, but with the start of the new deductible year. So our thought was for this first year, 300 for family, 150 for single. Perhaps over the next couple years as we expand our wellness program and make it a little more robust, or people to maybe have a little more skin in the game, that we could up that maybe next year to say 200 and 400, and then the year after perhaps 250, 500. Kind of where I'm thinking, but just thought 150, 300 was a reasonable place to perhaps start. So I'm going to jump back down here at the bottom. So then this gray number here, the second total, is factoring in now if all of those people on the HSA plan were eligible for their wellness incentive. So that's an additional $57,000. And it doesn't matter which plan we pick, that's going to be the same. Or this purple, might not look so purple in here, but purple number at the bottom is, okay, well, maybe not every single person's going to earn that. So I just said, what if it's 75%? Then that's kind of more about $43,000 additional. So if we pick this green is the Humana 5% option with the second year cap of 9.99%. Also then adding this lump sum payment for the people who earn the wellness incentive of 300 family, 100 single. That net increase is estimated to be not quite 260,000, so 258,000. So that's kind of what this is intended to show. So hopefully that makes sense. Are there any questions on that?
Ruth, is there any data from anyone on when a wellness program would start turning the Titanic?
No, it always seems to be kind of this elusive to try to track it as specific data. So there's two paths you can head down. One is more of a participatory plan, which is how we've started ours. And then there's one that's more intended to change behaviors. So you have to lower your blood pressure by pick a number. You have to lower your blood sugar, or your cholesterol, or your weight by pick a number. That to earn the incentive under those types of programs, you'd have to make those behavior changes, demonstrated behavior changes. So that's why I'm thinking if we turn more towards a behavior change than a participatory design, that's where maybe we could up that HSA contribution slightly. But no, I've not seen any good data that shows a direct correlation like a certain percentage or dollar amount or.
Sure. I appreciate the information, and we certainly support our employees being healthy, but at the same point, the incentive is to help us control our insurance costs. And if it's just an added expense, that's not really getting us in the right direction.
I mean, we can make that number whatever we want. You know, it could be 100, 200, it can be, you know, just knowing that it's starting, we wanted people to start using the program and, you know, at least getting used to it, and then we'll, just trying to see here. We had 68% of the people as of the end of March had at least registered and gotten into the program. So I thought that was fairly decent for the first quarter.
I was just going to acknowledge and sort of appreciate the question, Barry, because I do think that I wanted to interject and say that the wellness initiative is certainly part of the addition to the long range plan and hope for solution. There's no doubt that just about every, at least school, it's insured that has been able to realize a reduction in their overall costing, they do have wellness programs. So it's hard to know, you know, how much there's real cause and effect and how many other variables might play into it. We are hopeful though, and as Ruth pointed out, we struggled to identify a price point that wasn't going to break the bank, but also was going to hopefully, at least in part, motivate people to participate, because participation will ultimately end up being a factor as to whether or not we're able to reduce costs long term.
I guess the other part of the wellness program is it's not just the physical component. You know, there's a social component. There's, you know, the mindfulness. You know, the emotional side of it too. So there's many facets to it that some of those are hard to, you know, put a specific dollar amount on or.
Do we have any information on the impact on employees as far as the coverage? Do both WEA and Humana cover the same doctors, or are we gonna have some shifts there again?
Great question. There might be slight differences, but both of them would have a broad network. So all the major players would be the same. It might just be sometimes the chiropractor networks are slightly different, or if there's a small independent provider, perhaps that might change, but all, you know, it's Aurora, ProHealth, Mercy, Freighter, Children's, all those main players are the same under both. So we can certainly keep having discussion, but I guess I would need the board to act on, you know, which carrier would take. I would recommend no plan design changes. So continue with the 5,000, 10,000 for the actives and the 4,000, 8,000 plan for the retirees. Just look at the carrier change to Humana, one of those two options, and then pick a dollar amount for the lump sum HSA contribution for those that complete the wellness plan criteria.
And I'll ask for a motion to choose a plan, and also the, like Ruth just said, the amount of the incentive for the families to join, family and single, to join the wellness program.
I move we go ahead with the change to Humana with the $300 family and $150 single benefit for participants in the wellness program for a net increase of $215,644.92.
I think, Barry, that might be the wrong one though. That's with no change to the, I think we're looking at the 272 or 258, depending on the eligibility level. Is that right, Ruth?
Correct. The 215 is before the HSA contribution. So that would be the 5% Humana option.
I appreciate the thought process though, that you went for the bigger insurance at the lower cost.
What can I say? So do you want to just wipe that previous motion and have a new one?
No, just let's just change just with the note at the correction that it's to the the higher increase amount. It's either 258 or 272, depending on the eligibility level. Anyone want to second that?
Second.
All right, thanks, Roseanne. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion on this?
Yeah, I'll just say that at some point, I think we should potentially look at the cash and lieu cost and co-pays. I know I said that last year, but I'll say it again.
Anyone else have comments?
Thank you, Ruth, for all the work you do to get these insurance things figured out. It's a job.
This year was a little bit of a challenge.
Yes, I think so.
I think every year is a challenge because it seems like we're always just fighting to maintain as best benefits as we possibly can with the lowest possible price increase. It's never a decrease. But maybe I'm appreciative you guys are thinking in terms of long-term solutions that might be more sustainable.
This might be a little esoteric, Ruth, but do you know if these insurance premium increases are factored into CPI? Because it seems like we can never keep up with the insurance increases, yet we get CPI every year.
Like, does the insurance company factor that in?
No, when the state says, okay, or when the nation says, okay, here's CPI for this year,
Oh,
are insurance rate increases factored into that number?
I don't know that I know the specific answer, but it sure does not seem to be a factor. I mean, the health.
Like I said, it just seems so far off every year. I'm not sure how the
health costs soar. I mean, there's a couple of, well, in the southeast area here where there's several business managers, superintendents are kind of forming together to try to push the healthcare providers a little bit. Like, hey, come on, we need to find a solution. This can't continue.
No, it's an interesting question, Barry. I guess I'll have to Google after the meeting to see how they determine CPI, but because health should be a part of it, I would think, but I'm not sure it is. But because you're right, they don't match up. We're looking at 1 to 2% CPI versus much higher rates for insurance increases. Anyone else? Discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a roll vote.
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
yes.
Marlo,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ruth, for all three things. Moving on, our next agenda item is possible appointments to school board committees. This is something that I had asked all the board members to think about. So I'm open to ideas on, I think the goal though was for us as a board, how can we best function using committees? So if anyone has any idea, I'd love to hear them. Roseanne, I see your hand up. So go ahead.
I talked to John Ashley, WASB. We were talking about a convention that's coming up. And then I said, I talked to him about committees. And he said, well, many boards have committees and many do not. He said, if you are going to have committees, you have to be sure that you have a board that completely trusts each other, or it doesn't work. So I think that in our case, I'd like to see us do away with committees for the time being, at least for the near future. And the way we do it, we meet as a committee, we all sit there and then they vote, but it doesn't matter what the vote is because it always comes to the whole board anyway. I think it's kind of a waste of time to have the committees because they don't really have any power. So that's how I feel about it. I'd like to see us all handle everything that the committees handle because they don't meet every month. You know, we wouldn't have to meet every month on a committee, but I don't think there's a need for them. And as far as running the meeting, we all do things independently. We don't have to say that, well, we want committees because we want to be able to call a meeting to order, and no. So that's my opinion. Do away with them.
All right, thank you. Anyone else have thoughts on this? I'd love to hear from the other board members.
So if we have committees, are we thinking of doing it differently than we're doing it now? Now, everyone goes to all the committee meetings, everybody. are we thinking that just the committee members will go to their committee meetings and other people will not? Is that what you're thinking about?
I think to effectively use committees, Susan, that's exactly it. I think if you're going to have committees, and we're going to do, if we did 3-person committees like we've historically done, then we really should go full on and use committees. Or we should go the other course like Roseanne suggests and do what we're doing already and just meet as a whole and not use committees. And it could be a situation where we decide to do one now with the goal in the future that we maybe look at using committees in the future if we decide not to go committees right now.
Mhm. I think that would be a good move because we don't get to talk to each other or anything. And I don't think there is much trust on this board. I just don't think there is.
Yeah, I appreciate your candor on that.
Mhm.
I know Barry or Marlo or Taylor, do you guys have thoughts on what you think on the use of committees or how we can best function?
I think the committees are important, and I personally feel they should continue as they've continued, only they should be given some teeth. Absolutely. If we're going to hold committees and not give them any power, then what's the point? But
Right.
I think we could save a lot of run around, a lot of hassle, a lot of everything if we broke some of these 4-hour meetings out into committee meetings.
But I think then I would have to really trust that the 3 people that were in that committee meeting will come back and tell me exactly what happened without putting a spin or their own personal political views or whatever on it. And how can I make sure that that's not going to happen?
I'm not sure how that happens anywhere in life. You just have to
Well,
trust
but we all
and verify. I mean,
But we all hear it. The way it is now, we do all hear it. The way you're talking about moving, I wouldn't hear it. And I would have to, like Roseanne said, I'd have to trust you enough to tell me exactly what went on in that meeting without you putting any type of spin on it.
but I think I wasn't clear. What I said is I think we should keep it exactly the way it is right now, only give it some teeth. So you would still have the opportunity to attend the meeting. You'd still have the opportunity to potentially voice your opinion, but the committee would have binding say on it. So you wouldn't have to have any translation as to what happened in the meeting. You could be there.
I don't think you gain anything by doing that then. It's just what we've got now, except the teeth. And I don't know. I think it's a waste of time. I think we should try it with committees. And as Peter said, if we decide down the road that maybe we could try it again, but I don't think we're ready to give that much power to 2 people on a committee. And then of course, which committees are they? And Peter, that's a rough job you're going to have to do if that's what you do. I'd like to see us start without committees and just try it.
Thanks, Roseanne. How about Taylor or Marlo? You guys have thoughts on this? I'd love to hear from you.
I would be for keeping the committees if we actually utilize them in an effective way. I don't think in the past they've been utilized in an effective way. I'll just keep my answer short and blunt. Not sure where some of these other little side comments are coming from, but take that with a grain of salt, I guess.
I would echo what Barry said. If we're going to do committees, then those committee members have to be empowered to make decisions. And of course, the other board members could be in attendance and voice their concerns or their opinions as well. But I kind of sit in the middle. If you're not going to have a committee that can actually act or make a decision on something, what good is the committee? But it does help being able to break some of this stuff out to a smaller group. I understand Susan's concern about trust issues within the board and everything, but I would hope that at some point in time we can get to a point where we can trust everybody to do what's right regardless of spin or political leanings. So
And I'm optimistic.
Oh,
go ahead.
Nope, I'm good for whichever way we go, as long as it's the best way for for all, with the end result being what we're all striving for.
And quite frankly, everybody on this board has made comments publicly that, the one thing that this board is known for is keeping the politics out of the boardroom. So, to hear some of these comments that are just being raised up now is kind of shocking, but that's right.
Well, I'm optimistic that we can come together as a board, and I think we or work together better. Let me put it that way. And COVID's been tough. We've been doing this for a long time. I think that's challenging. I think we all recognize that. I'm optimistic. I think one thing to consider too, though, if we do away with committees, is the personnel committee. I think we still need the personnel committee because we do meet in closed session. But I suggest maybe that's a committee of the whole at this point. Again, that'd be the one standing committee, and we could always have ad hoc committees. Right now, we do a compensation committee, so we could always, if we have an issue come up, we still can call a committee to do the work. But then the committee should be doing the work. It should be the people on the committee doing the work, and then reporting back to the board, who makes the ultimate decision.
Well, again, I would like to see us do it as a committee of a whole, all of us. And maybe when this COVID thing is over and we're back to normal, we can go back to something with committees. But right now, I don't see it being successful. I kind of agree with John Ashley on that.
So I guess I'd like to.
Roseanne, I'd challenge that to what would the difference be? What's the difference now between 4 months from now?
I don't know. What is the difference, Barry?
I guess that's my point. There isn't one. Why would you be okay with it in 4 months, but you're not okay with it now?
No, I'm not. I'm not okay with it now. Because we do not trust each other. Let's be honest.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. I agree with you. It is.
Yeah, I guess at this point, I'd like to hear a motion on what we should do with our committee structure, because we had a personnel committee earlier this evening. We only had 2 members. So we need to do something tonight, I guess is my point. We can't go on. We need to have committees. Either we're going to set our committees or we're going to do away with them. So would someone like to make a motion?
I move we go ahead with committees as we've had in the past and give them the power to act on motions.
Barry, can you help me clarify what that second part means? I'm not sure what you're referring to. Help me. Tell me more about that.
Committee has to be able to have say. If we're going to have a committee and it doesn't make a difference what the committee says, the committee is pointless. I mean, that's the whole discussion we've had here so far. The committee has to have teeth or it's a pointless venture.
So just to clarify, are you saying that, let's say you have a 3-person committee and the committee votes, of the 3 people, 2 of them vote no on an issue, that it does not go to the full board? Is that what you're saying? Or is it,
yes,
am I missing something? Okay.
Yes, at some point we have to trust people to move forward. We can't all be involved in every single decision because no one has that kind of time.
Okay, before we go on to further discussion about that, is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay, let's discuss that. Anyone have thoughts on that?
That's exactly why Peter Smet did away with it, because he said that 2 people could make a decision for the whole board. And I don't care if the whole board is there listening or not. It's true that 2 people that make the decision on something pretty important for 7. And I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, I agree, because you could have a 5-2 split on a board, and if the 2 people happen to be on one committee, that could stifle that. So that doesn't seem quite fair to me, I guess I'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what Peter Smith said. So I'm just going by why we did away with them, with the power.
Okay, any further discussion on that point?
The organization of the committees, in my opinion, is important, especially in something like, let's say, policy. If you're trying to write policy and you have Taylor, Susan, and Marlo show up at one session, and Roseanne and I and Peter at the next session, and the session after that, it's Peter and Taylor, you need some cohesiveness in these decisions. They can't just be wandering all over the place.
No, but that never
And I think
happened.
that's why these committees are important and why they need to have some sort of structure. We can't just have things floating about and whoever happens to get there gets there.
But that never happens. We don't have just 2 people show up and then 3 people. That doesn't happen.
In some cases, we have one person show up.
Well, I think that would be the issue. It'd be like, if we're going to use committees, it would be 3 people on the committee and they would be doing work and then reporting back to the board for decisions. It wouldn't be where we all show up, even though we're not on the committee. That'd be the proper way to use committees, because we all, it'd be more efficient. And I think that'd be the proper use of a committee. And I guess along your lines of the point of the policy, that was a good example. That was a committee that actually functioned like it should have. Susan led it. I think the committee members went and did the hard work during the day. I didn't go. I'm not on policy committee. I didn't go to the end of the meetings. I waited for the board, for the policy committee to report. We could still do that, though, with an ad hoc committee. Policy's not going to need to meet to overhaul our policies for a while. So I would suggest you still could have an ad hoc committee called if you have an issue come up like that. Is there any other discussion on Barry's motion? Okay, hearing none, then I guess Toby, can you do a roll call vote? Barry, just to clarify, that Barry's motion is that we use committees where we'd have 3-person committees, and they would have the authority then to determine whether a issue goes to the full board. Is that fair, Barry? Did I capture it correctly?
Sure.
Okay,
Yep.
With teeth, I guess I'll go. Let's
Yes.
call it the with teeth plan.
So they have the power. I just would like to say, okay, so 2 people have the power then to decide whether it goes to the whole board.
That's correct.
All right. Mm-mm.
Toby, would you do the roll call, please?
Sure. Peter,
No.
Barry,
Yes.
Marlo,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Roseanne,
No.
Susan.
No.
All right, so the motion is defeated. I fear we may be at an impasse then, but I guess I'd entertain another motion if anyone wants to make another idea here. I guess I'll throw it out if no one wants to. My motion would be that we, for the interim or foreseeable future, we don't have any standing committees except for personnel. And we meet as a board, and we use personnel though as our one standing committee. But our board as a whole will all be on the personnel committee.
I second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, I guess I'll throw discussion in here. I still think this is the wrong decision. It's not the right direction for the board. I believe it's being driven this way for the intent of causing fracture, but I'm not going to be willing to play that game. So I will go ahead and vote for this because we need to get this board moving forward, and I can give when it needs to be given. So.
Yeah, and Barry, I appreciate your comments. I think when I said foreseeable future too, I do envision that I would think we'd be better operating at using committee structure in the future. I think this is an interim measure to get us through, at least for now. So thanks for your flexibility, I guess. I'm at least considering it. Is there any other discussion on this point?
Peter, this is Toby. I just need clarification, just so I'm writing this down correctly.
Yeah, thanks, Toby. The motion is that we would abolish committees except for the personnel committee, which would meet as a committee of the whole.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was, I was much more succinct the second time around. Okay, last call. Any other further discussion? All right, hearing none. Toby, will you do the roll call?
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Barry, you got to unmute.
You're muted, Barry.
Yes, my space bar was in the wrong location. Yes.
Marlo,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Let me just get logged back in here. My screen saver went off. I think our next one was are we talking, mass, summer and fall. Okay, so as you all know, that's been a request from a number of citizens that we discuss our policy on whether we require our students to wear masks, both in the summer, which I think would include community ed, and then the fall. I think these are two separate issues. I guess I'd like to tackle them one at a time, unless anyone has any objection to that. I think the first question would be, are we going to require students to wear masks over summer school and then in the fall? And I guess I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a
one way or the
motion
other.
I'll make a motion that for the summer school and for community ed, that masks be optional.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second?
I second.
All right, thank you. A motion's been made and seconded to make masks optional for the summer and fall. Is there any discussion?
Hold on, just to clarify, my motion was because you said you wanted to break it up, so.
Oh, did I say summer and fall, Taylor? I
Yeah.
apologize. I meant summer, thank you for clarifying that. Misstep on my part. Summer and community ed is the motion.
Yep.
Yep, thank you.
I have a question for Steve. Steve, have you talked to the Racine County and the state health departments, and do they say anything about wearing masks in the summer? Have they come out with anything?
I have spoken to Central Racine County Health. They're the folks that lead essentially Central Racine County Health Department. That's Margaret and Jeff. Yeah, I mean, their position remains kind of as it has, and that is that they wouldn't want us negotiating with kids' health and safety. And there was a Department of Health Services webinar and discussion on May 4th, and Ryan Westergaard he's the Chief Medical Officer for DHS, and his statement back to a reporter that asked him the question said that basically he believes masks are the #1 most effective tool to prevent spread in indoor school settings, and that they prevent, respiratory particles in the probably cheapest and most effective way. That was his answer. That I know that we don't have a large population in summer school and community ed. It's certainly a choice program. I think to Peter's point of separating fall out, I asked that question of them as well, and their recommendation would be, yeah, we don't go there yet. That's still, essentially 3.5 months away. And we believe that we're talking to the county health program right now about the possibility of running a vaccination clinic at Burlington High School for kids ages 12 and up, which should be approved this week. In addition, we believe that come fall, we'll be able to do antigen-based rapid testing on kids to hopefully mitigate and minimize the need to be out on quarantine. Those are things that by fall we should have in place. And so I definitely agree, fall's a different conversation, but certainly, nothing is static right now, and it'd be great if, we just could keep kids safe, whatever that looks like. And so I know there's a lot of moving parts in different parts of the state. And so, the county health, they'd love us to continue to have kids masked, but, that's really up to the board.
I've got a couple comments on this one. I went back and did some loose data diving. Since March 1st of this year until the cutoff yesterday of board comments, we've had 36 emails from constituents regarding masks. 8 of those just mentioned masks. They didn't take an opinion on them one way or the other. They just had the word mask in them. 24 of them were against having masks. Of those 24, 3/4 of those emails came from 2 families, and 41% of those emails came from 1 person. So I do not believe we have broad community support for removing the mask mandate. As of this morning, when I checked, actually this afternoon when I checked again, CDC still recommends masking at school. They've talked about, Fauci was on the news today saying, hey, we're gonna have to look at loosening this up, but not yet. So my opinion on it is absolutely not for the summer. And we can take a look at it in August again to determine what's gonna happen over the fall. Because by then we'll have more data as to what's going on and what we can have in place.
And I agree with Barry completely. I think we need to go with the science. We need to keep kids safe. The CDC recommends that we wear masks when you're indoors, that we social distance. The vaccines coming out are so good. I just heard tonight on the news that it has been recommended for the 12 to the 15-year-olds for vaccines now. So that's going to really help so much. We have to keep everybody safe. And at this point, we still need to do masks, and masks. I don't care if somebody says they don't work, they do work. That's what the science says, they do work. So I certainly recommend that we continue with masks, but we have to see where we are in the fall. I'm not saying that, we're talking about today, we're talking about summer. I say that we keep the masks.
Just a side note on that, when I was talking to the nurse, she said it was so interesting because they've had so few regular childhood diseases come up this year since the kids have been wearing masks. There have been a lot less absent because of the diseases that kids get. Sorry, I thought that I hadn't thought of that, but I thought that was pretty interesting. Just a thought.
Marlo or Taylor, do you guys have discussion points?
No, I don't have any discussion points. I made the motion to make masks optional.
Okay, so just to make sure you have a chance.
Sure. I understand that there are certain individuals that are maybe more outspoken on this in the community, but I feel that in this community, there is definitely more of that feeling out there than those that have been emailing. So I'll just throw that out there.
I'll give you my take too. I think this is a tough issue. I understand folks are uncomfortable, but I think there's also folks who really struggle wearing a mask. I get that, and I think it's challenging. But I've said this before, I'm not a doctor, I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm going to stick with the CDC, the State Department of Health, and even more the Central Racine County Health Department on their recommendations. I've looked at some of the other data, but the CDC is chock full of epidemiologists. They know what they're doing. And I am hopeful that we can get to a point soon where we can go back to normal, but I don't think we're quite there yet as far as summer and community ed. So I think we've heard from everyone. Marlo, you have anything else you want to add, or are you good on this one?
I don't know that I really have too much more to add. Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's literally a personal choice. I think in the past year, I've had 3 or 4 tests, and they've all come back negative. So I completely understand people's desire to wear masks, to continue wearing masks. I understand people's desire, to have them optional. I literally sit on the fence for this. I have family members that, are susceptible. So we do limit contact with other people because of them. So it's really a personal choice, and I think people need to be able to make that personal choice. So, I mean, we'll see where it goes from here as far as the vote's concerned, but I do think they should be optional, especially with the fact, and apparently I have a little bit more to say on this, especially with the fact that, yes, we can follow the science, but we're getting conflicting, I think we're getting conflicting information when it comes to the science, depending on who you're listening to. So you have reports that say that children are in the lowest susceptible group to contract. So, you know, I don't know. Like I said, we'll just see where it goes.
Good, thank you.
Marlo, I agree with you that the science is tough and we do get different reports from different places. I guess where I struggle is if we get it wrong, people can die. It's unlikely. It's low percentage, but people can die if we choose to just let people do whatever they want. We haven't had any reported deaths from wearing a mask. And I'm not saying that to be callous or blunt, but on the grand scale of safety for kids, this is one thing we can rather be safe than sorry. There are lots of things that, yeah, we go completely overboard. This one, I think it's too important for the safety of everyone involved.
And I can agree with you on that, but there's no provision for those. As far as I know, there's no provisions in place for those who could potentially be harmed more so by wearing a mask. I have a child who has pretty bad asthma. We were at the zoo this past weekend. The zoo required mask, even though you're outside and you're kind of socially distancing, but you definitely had to have it inside. You know, she's got her inhaler with her. So, I mean, in some instances, it could be more detrimental for those particular people to be forced to wear a mask too. So I understand that we have to do, you know, what's best for everyone as best we can. But, you know, sometimes you have to look at, you know, the singular people too. So.
I agree with you. And Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, we do have medical exemptions, correct?
Yes, we do. We work with families often as best we can to meet any sort of special needs.
Okay.
Any other discussion? I'll just say this. I think this has been a good open discussion in a cordial way. I'm appreciative of everyone's input on this. Toby, let's have the roll call then, please, on this issue. Just a reminder that the motion is just for, Roseanne, I'll get you in a second. The motion would be.
I just wanted you to repeat the motion.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, the motion, just so we're clear, is making masks optional for summer school and community ed only at this point.
Okay. Peter,
No.
Barry,
No.
Marlo,
Marlo, you're muted.
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Roseanne,
No,
Susan.
you're muted.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, board. But before we move on to the next agenda item, then we still haven't discussed masks for the fall. And I think one thing I'm hearing from the board, but I guess I'd like a motion then, is that I'm understanding maybe we put this decision off, but that's, you know, until we know more. That's my take on this, that I don't think we know enough at this point. And the date, like Barry, I heard the report from Dr. Fauci too, that we may be in a whole different place in a couple of months. One thing we've learned from COVID is things rapidly change. And I think it'd be premature to make a decision on this, but I'll get off my pulpit and let everyone else have their take on this too.
So I'd make a comprehensive motion that we require masks for summer school and outdoor ed over the summer, and revisit this conversation in August as to what will happen for the fall.
I second the motion.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on that one?
Yeah, so for the families that homeschooled last year or did online, or potentially looking to either enroll their kids back in or pull them out, is August an adequate time frame for them to make a decision? And I say August, not like I'm trying to delay anything, but would July be a more appropriate decision timeframe for that type of discussion?
Well, we meet the second Monday in August. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve or Jill, you can register up to the first day of school. Even on the first day of school, you can register for school. So that should be, I don't know, I would think that would be enough time.
I agree.
Well, I don't know if I'm correct. I'd need Steve and Jill to verify if I'm right on that.
That is a true statement, and the open enrollment, the official open enrollment window is closed, but there is the alternative application, and that can be done right up till the end, and people can submit multiple applications and choose to go or not go. That was a change in the rule this year, specifically as a result of COVID.
So what you're saying with that is people could apply at any point and decide not to opt out.
Correct. So there might be people that have already applied and then decide to stay, or you could see the inverse of that.
Okay. So it seems like there's some flexibility there.
And Taylor, I'm grateful you brought that up because I know that was asked by a constituent, and I think that's an important point, but I think it's a balance between giving flexibility versus even that 1 month could be a world of difference this summer. I'm an optimist. I'm hoping we're in a much better place by August or even by July, but I think August might even be a whole different world. And as a board, we'll make a better informed decision if we wait till August.
I would love to lead the mask bonfire. I really would, but we have to have the data behind us.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think we'll have much, much more data by August.
Is there more discussion? Marlo or Roseanne, do you have anything to say on this point?
Well, I agree with that.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right, thanks. Yeah, we probably thoroughly talked it through. Toby, let's have a roll call then on Barry's motion.
Okay. Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Marlo,
Yes.
Taylor,
No.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Excellent. Last item for action is the Neola recommended revisions to bylaws and policies, a second reading. So if you recall, we did a first reading. Last month's board meeting, we did a second meeting, but we had what we had tonight. We had 6 people. So we had 6 people, but Marla wasn't on the board. So we decided to put over until this meeting, the second reading. So I'd like to entertain a motion. Before I do that, we broke out the 2 of the policies that we did. And I think that might make a good way to handle this too, that let's handle all the other, I'd call them non-controversial technical changes to the bylaws first, and then we could talk about the other 2 after that, unless someone has an objection to that.
So I'm sorry, Peter, are you talking about just have discussion about them first, or?
No, I guess I'd like the motion to approve all the bylaws that are technical and change. That'd be my preference. And let's deal with the 2 that were, I call it maybe more, that maybe would bring up some discussion. And of those 2, I'm referring to, just to be clear, the board member behavior and code of conduct, which is 144.5, and the board member information request, 143.2. I understood all the other ones were non-controversial, so I believe we could pass them. They're mostly technical.
Right. I move we approve all the policy changes as noted, except for policies 0143.2 and 0144.5. Those 2 can be discussed separately.
Second.
All right, motion's been made in second. Any discussion? Hearing none, then Toby, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Marlo,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone. Let's now tackle those 2 policy changes. And I don't know if we want to break these out separately or if we want to take them together. I guess I'd propose we take them together. So I'd entertain a motion then to approve or I guess it'd be approve these 2 policies.
I move we approve those two policies.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah, so I'm not obviously in favor of this policy 0143.2 board member information requests. I feel that would potentially hinder board members from requesting information or potentially getting information by the way the policy is laid out. But I mean, I know I've expressed this concern with several of you, but that's kind of where I'm at on the board member information requests.
Taylor, can I ask, do you have any issues with the other policy, the board member behavioral code of conduct? Or are you fine with that one? Just sorry to put you on the spot. I'm just kind of curious if we're.
Yeah, just give me a second.
Okay. If anyone else wants to jump in with their discussion, that'd be fine.
Oh,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said, I think a code of conduct is good. Most school boards have such a thing, and I don't know. It sounded good to me. I like the way it was written.
Yeah, I guess I'll agree with Roseanne on that. The behavior and code of conduct, I think, is fine. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, I really didn't have that big of an issue with that one per se. It was more or less the other board member information requests. That's really my hang up on that one. Otherwise, I think code of conduct is fine.
And just as a point of information, sorry, Susan, for interrupting you, but these two policies, I believe, were driven, or they're being recommended by Neola because of COVID causing challenges for boards. I guess so that's where these are coming from, that it's Neola thinking that these may be good things for boards to have in place. So correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, on that one, but that's my understanding where, these are being driven by.
Yeah, I do believe that's true. In the update that came from Neola, which was their late winter update, these were recommendations, and part of the reason that we have those technical updates, we kind of make those changes. You've given really directed me to make those updates, and then there are a number of other updates that come to you. Very few are too terribly substantive. These two in particular were new, and so I really wanted to draw your attention to them because they didn't go through the drafting policy. And so, to Peter's point, these were items articulated, frankly, as a struggle for school boards trying to work through a lot of COVID-related things where conversations got intense, and there was a lot of information flying around back and forth. So that is, Peter, to my understanding, where these were born.
Susan, you had something to say and I cut you off.
I guess I was just going to ask Taylor why he thinks this would limit him, because basically this is just talking about if a board member makes a request, then that request will come to the board. And some requests, I guess, are just so much that you would, that our staff has to do, and our staff is supposed to be really working on doing everything for kids, and not so much for us. So if the board thinks that your request, Taylor, or whoever would have the request, is a viable request, then yeah, it will go through. I don't see how it can limit, how it's limiting you, I guess, is my opinion on it.
Sure, but for me as an elected board member, if I want information on something, then I should have access to it. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. I would think that if I request, as an example, information on a certain topic, and Steve comes back and says, "Oh, that's a lot of information. We maybe sit down and have a conversation about that, so I can maybe narrow this down to figure out what exactly you're looking for." I think that's great, and he's done that in the past. I don't think we need a policy to where if I request something, it needs to come to the 6 of you to get approval. Because if a citizen requests the same information, they don't have to come before you to get approval through Freedom of Information Act.
Just to be clear on one point then, the policy I think was very clear in saying that it does not inhibit anything that is available through the open records law for a citizen can still request that, and a board member certainly can request anything that's available to a citizen through open records. This would be only relating to information that's not available through open records. So it'd be above and beyond. As board members, we could request things that obviously are not open records or eligible for open records requests. Just to be clear on that point, I want to make sure that's clear for you and for the public.
Yeah, and that's fine. But again, I don't feel like I or any other board member that sits on here should have to go before six other individuals in order to get approval if I want some information. I think that it should be discussion, kind of as I just listed as an example, through myself and let's say the superintendent, because I think that also kind of goes to building that relationship there too. So, I mean, again, if Steve or Ruth or anybody has an issue with me requesting information, they feel that it's going to be cumbersome on them, then I would hope that they would have enough. I hope that they would be okay enough with saying, this is a lot of information that you're requesting. We have a conversation about this. That I love. I think that's great. And they've done that in the past and it's worked out fine. I just don't necessarily feel that having an actual policy to where this needs to come before the board.
Well, I don't think the policy means that. If you want to ask about finances or something like that, we can all do that. But I think as Peter said, this is something that if you're requesting something that is open records and beyond open record, that I think should come before the board. But that's my opinion. We're all entitled to our own.
So I got the impression while reading this document that all requests from board members would have to go before the board. However, you are still free to file a Freedom of Information Act to get it yourself otherwise. Maybe that's not how that's meant to be, but that's how I read it. My take on these two policies is I think they're both important policies that should be in place, but they both need to be massaged and worked out. There are some things in them that just aren't quite right. I don't know that, 8 minutes to 10 again is the right time to go through and rediscuss these two policies. But I'm in favor of having these policies in place after they've been reviewed and changed a little bit. Peter, to your question earlier about 0144.5, any objections to that? By and large, I'm good with all of it, except when you get to the part where it says the president of the board is solely responsible for tongue-in-cheek here, doling out punishment. I don't think that's reasonable. I think the board as a whole should be deciding, what needs to happen with the situation. And maybe that gets into micromanaging, maybe not, but I don't think that's appropriate that one person would have that kind of sway, especially over future committee holdings or anything else. That should be the discussion of the entire board. That's just an example, but again, I don't know that this is the right time to really dig into those and say, this is what has to change, and then we'll pass it tonight.
And the way I view these two policies too, I don't think we have any issues on our current board with any of these things, but I view it as a prospective issue. We don't know who will be on the board in 5-10 years. And these could be two important policies, because we do know school boards can have problems with folks who get on there and either have problems with code of conduct or make excessive information requests. I think they're both good policies. Barry, you might be right. I mean, there's things we could look at here in the policies that would be tweaks that may make them better.
The other thing to remember is you're one election from the policy being thrown out the door anyhow. Future boards can always change the policy to whatever they want it to be.
Well, should we have a motion to table this, postpone this until the next meeting? Because it's already almost 10 o'clock.
I think that's a great idea, Roseanne. And
I'll put that in form of a motion.
Well, hold on. There's already a motion on the floor, though.
Go ahead.
that's the problem. At 10 o'clock, we forget our motions.
Oh,
Thanks, Toby, for keeping us on track here.
It's been first and seconded that we approve the two.
Okay.
So we have to do something with that.
You're right, because we're in discussion. So So motion's been made to approve both policies. That's right. I think Roseanne and Susan, you made that one. Any more discussion before we go to vote?
The only thing I'd offer is I really don't want to push this down the road forever. I'd like to get a date on the calendar and not a month out. Maybe our third Monday of the month meeting or fourth Monday of the month meeting to get back and visit this and get it taken care of. Because I do feel they're important. I just would rather get them done rather than let them drift.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind. I don't know, fourth Monday of the month this month in May is Memorial Day. I'll have to look at that. But
I'll be here.
Yeah, we'll figure something out, right? That's a good point. All right, Toby, will you do the roll call?
Peter,
No.
Barry,
No.
Marlo,
No.
Taylor,
No.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Go back to my meetings. I think we're done with the action items. Future meeting dates. I guess that leads into what Barry just talked about. I know we have a future meeting coming up in June. It would be the second Monday, as we decided last during the reorganization meeting to keep our meetings the second month. And we'll have the personnel committee beforehand, and then the board meeting at 7. I think that's all we have on our schedule right now. Steve, correct me if I'm wrong on that. I think that's it, right?
Nope, that is accurate. We listed June 14th.
Okay. And I guess, Barry, we can talk, or I'll confer with Steve if we decide to have another meeting in the interim to talk about these policies, because it would be nice to take a crack at these two before 10 a.m. or to 10 p.m. one time. And so we can finally get these two to bed, the policies that will not either be passed or die. So we'll figure that out. I'm pretty sure though,
Peter, if I may, while you're looking at the calendar, maybe a suggestion as board homework is for you to look at what either the first question is, do you want to scrap either one because you're just not interested? If that's not your feeling, and your feeling is no, they're good, maybe come with your draft language of what you'd like to see changed, kind of as a homework assignment. I do think May is an unusual and interesting month. I believe there's actually, to Peter's prior point, I believe there's 5 Mondays. The 4th Monday is the 24th. The 5th Monday is Memorial Day. I will be honest and say that for me specifically, the challenge using the 24th, should that be the decision, is that is the final sort of staff school day of the year. And there's a number of activities going on, after school staff saying goodbye, having, I'll call them parties, end of the year parties. I don't want to say that I don't want to spend time with you to attend these parties, but I do think that some of those events are important as we wrap up the school year. So the 24th may be an option. That will be difficult for me in the sense that it is the final day. It's the in-service day of staff. But it is a week still to Memorial Day. Memorial Day is the 31st.
I think we could wait till the 14th, don't you, Peter?
I think so. And I like the idea of some homework. So hopefully all 6 of us can come up with, or take a hard look at those 2 policies, decide what works for you and what doesn't, so we can kind of narrow this down. And we could even look at maybe possibly June 7 to have a quick meeting. That might be another possibility. Or we wait to the 14th. If we have a little lighter agenda in June, maybe we'll get through this before it gets too late.
I'm fine with the 14th if everyone comes prepared.
Yeah, good point. Well, great discussion tonight. I appreciate everyone's input, and I think we got through a lot. I guess I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. We have to do roll call for this too? I believe we do. Yeah, Toby, will you do the roll call?
Peter,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Marlo,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.